What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another weekly update. And what I'd like to do in this video is provide you some events, some upcoming earnings, and potential stock picks I have for the upcoming week to get you prepared, as I also do provide daily updates to get you prepared for the ever-changing dynamics of the market that can flip on every minute of the day. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing as I do provide that insight. I also suggest that you follow me at Hemi at 137 on Twitter, as well as I do provide morning calls there to get you prepared for the day. But this week has been interesting. Actually, the past couple of weeks have been interesting. I would say it's probably been about a week and a half since we've had Powell, since we have the FOMC. We had full kind of digestion this week at the FOMC and their preparation for another 50-point basis move after they just released the 50-point basis move. For the next at least two meetings. We have another meeting in June, and I believe there's another one in July. So we're aiming at 50 points. Then you also had Bostic on this past week talking about 75-point basis move is potentially still in the cards. Now, the market, my thesis going into the way the whole market is played out throughout this year, if we kind of look back here, let me see if I can expand this a little bit more. So since the top, right, since we came in January, we've essentially, something I talked about, even when we came down to these levels here, it's about a 15%. This is before we really knew what was going to happen with the Fed. At that point, we were kind of pricing in a 50-point basis move. Essentially, we came in, we got a 25-point basis move in that first meeting in the new year. This is why we had this massive rip up. Then we find out the Fed started to get very, very hawkish. I was talking about this is also the fact that we continued to buy bonds and purchase assets because of the war. So this is also why I believe it helped make this parabolic move here. Then we start talking about a 50-point basis move, 75-point basis move. There was a lot of discussion from the Fed talking about what their next move was going to be. So much so that we had some great earnings. We had big tech around this week. This is also the day we had Powell before the FOMC meeting. He was talking about a 50-point basis move that dropped the market. And then we've been rattling around here talking about 50-point basis moves, and then 75-point basis moves or continued 50-point basis moves, and has dropped us down here. And now ultimately down here, I believe 20%, which we have roughly hit this week. Now, if my thesis is correct, 20% would essentially price in a 75-point basis move. Now, I know there's, they keep adding 25 points here, 50 points there, 50 points there. But ultimately, I think for like a full 75-point basis move, I think the market predicts a 20% correction on the general index would price that in my opinion, is kind of what I'm thinking. So if they come in at 50 or below in the next meeting, I think that could make us really rip parabolic again. Potentially just start reversing everything in general. But we have to see. So far, we've hit that 20% almost on a dime, and we've bounced, which was funny. Pure luck, purely educated guess. Crystal ball, maybe, I don't know. But being said, one thing we really have to pay attention here is we haven't had a lot of strength within here. The only reason we had strength here on this candle was because we were expecting 75-point basis move. We got a 50-point basis move, which was bad in general. But considering it was in a 75, we popped, only for the next day to completely sell off. Now, so we could potentially have 75 priced in here at the 20% correction overall. But we've broken major support. Now, anytime you break a major support, you're going to retest that. It is a monthly, weekly support here. You also have the daily 20 EMA coming in, which we haven't touched in a very long time. So you're going to get a very hard rejection somewhere around this 41.26 mark. And coming into this week, we do have Powell on Tuesday. Let me go ahead and bring those notes up real quick, kind of run through the week here real fast. Upcoming earnings this week, Tuesday. We got a lot of retail and stuff coming in this week. So we got Walmart, HD, Target. Those are the major ones I'm watching. Again, there are still a lot of earnings going on, but those are the major ones I'm watching. Events this week, ultimately, biggest one is Tuesday. Powell. He has a discussion at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. There's going to be a lot of information. He's talking about 75 point, 50 points. If he comes in anything lower than a 50-point basis move in that talk on Tuesday, it could really make the market rip. If he does bring up potential 75-point basis move, we could get some volatility and we might be okay, because I think if that 20% theory is correct, true correction on the market, we could be good and we could start heading back up. So and a meeting Tuesday is going to be very important. Again, if anything happens with the war ends. There's been some discussion about Putin. I'm not really sure what that front is or what is really true there. But if anything happens in this war to where I think Russian troops were actually backing out of Ukraine, if that is the case, this market is going to go parabolic, right? If this in particular, because that's going to take a big stress out of the supply chain, is going to help relieve a lot of that pressure that we've had, especially for chips. And so if that's the case, you're going to get a massive move in the market to the upside. So just be mindful of that coming over the next couple of days. But again, Tuesday will be a big thing. And then what I'm kind of watching this week is for big turnarounds on some of the big tech and the overall index, right? If the market turns and starts going parabolic, SPX, Tesla, Google, Shop, these ones are going to make massive moves to the upside. This is also why I play them, because they have these massive point spreads on these stocks. It's not very often you see major moves like this. Most stocks hardly move. These ones move 75 points, 70 points, 115 points, Shop 50 points, right? These things can make some massive moves in a couple days. So again, if we do change here, this is definitely what I want to keep my eye on this week. I know I play a lot of the same stuff, but it's important to know that you play a lot of the same stuff. You know how it moves and you're comfortable the way it moves. And that definitely can help your trading overall in general. So with that being said, we are going to get a pretty hard rejection off of this sometime this week, whether that is Monday. Maybe we open up on Sunday and we reject here. Come pre-market Monday, we are up here. We reject hard come Monday, which would kind of make sense. My opinion, I think what's actually going to happen, we might be flat, and then Monday we might rip up to this level. And then that kind of leads right into Tuesday with Powell. It's kind of funny how that works. And then if we have Powell says anything bad, we could pull us back. I think we're going to hold that 4,000 potentially. If we do hold that 4,000, that could be a very strong bullish catalyst. Because if we do, we can push back up and retest this level. If we do break it here, I think we can get a reversal back up. Again, you have a lot of resistance up here, so it's not going to be a clean shot straight up unless, again, some news about Russia and Ukraine comes out. Again, that could be parabolic and break through these levels pretty quick. But because the market in general is really looking for some kind of positive sentiment, and any positive sentiment is making this market really run. So being said, so I say you don't need a lot to make a lot, because you put a little bit in these massive 50, 70-point moves in some of these stocks is just absolutely absurd. So definitely things you want to keep an eye on this week for potential big moves. So again, it could be a very exciting week. I think we might have hit bottom. I've been talking about this level. We could even still drop down to the 38%. Again, we got really strong support around the 3,600 mark. I don't see us even going close to this or even breaking this area. We're going to need even so we're going to really need some bad news. The whole market in general needs a financial. I think the whole financial system would be crumbling if we start breaking these levels down here. But again, anything is possible, so just be mindful of that as well. And again, this is not financial advice. Bitcoin itself has definitely been testing some levels. A lot of people could say this has been a retest here, could potentially start selling off. It's very possible. We had that whole Luna fiasco this past week, so that kind of broke a step back below this. Again, it was a black swan event that happened with Luna, and that black swan event has really caused this break here. Again, if there's positive sentiment in the market this week, I think this thing starts ripping back up. I think this is a very good level here for crypto to start hitting back up. And there's a lot of positive sentiment in the market for crypto. So you have to keep that in mind. But again, I think this might be the turning point for the market in general. So just keep that in mind. Again, I know 32 is kind of the level of this whole section here. Again, we had that black swan event in crypto, so it kind of made some people skittish for it to break down below this. But ultimately, we have to see where this goes from this point. Again, anything can go to zero, so that's something to keep in mind. You always have to manage risk, and sometimes you just have to stay cash positions till the market figures itself out. So take a profit along the way is definitely something you need to be getting used to, especially in markets like this. Normal markets, you want the market to digest everything and then come back and see where you are from there. Now, Tesla, it's held this 700 mark really well. It's actually dipped below the 680 at one point this week. I started building a position in Tesla as this is one of my favorite stocks, one of the best stocks in the market. Obviously, they've proven themselves even after everything they've gone through over the past couple of years. The past 2 years, they've really started accelerating their growth and everything else. So they are in a really good position in this market, and they continue to innovate, which is allowing them to stay on top. So I'm really kind of watching this. I'm really watching this level up here at the 852 this week. If we do get that retest, you're going to get a retest at the 852, could reject back down, and then hold potentially that 775. If we do hold 775, that could be very positive. I think we could start ripping back up. Again, there's a lot of news. I think that this week could really start pushing this and reversing this market back up. And again, I don't think you're going to see Tesla at these low. These are low numbers for Tesla, and I don't think you're going to see these very often. So, again, not financial advice, but we don't. If Tesla does break that, essentially this 694. If you get a daily candle open below this, again, this thing can flush pretty heavy down to 600. You get that 50 EMA down here. The good thing is that we popped back over the 20 EMA monthly. That was the concern, is if we could get back over that. I said coming into this week, Tesla did break, but it needed to break back over that before the end of the week. It did that. So that is a very positive sign, as it does carry a lot of weight in the SPX. So that does help to potentially position the market in a reversal here. So again, you really want to watch Tesla and see what happens with it this week. Google's the other one I got. Google's another big one. Looks like a potential breakout here on the wedge. Again, it's attempting to break out here, but it's not really going below this 2242. So again, depending on how we open, if we can open up at 2315, this thing can get a nice reversal. Potentially, you still want it to break the 2387, get a nice run up to the 2519, the 2520 mark. And you got a stock split coming up in a couple of months here. So something to keep in mind. I think if the whole market goes parabolic, this is going to be one of the first ones you definitely want to get in at that point, and then see where it goes from there. So again, Google is definitely want to be on watch this week. Again, if there is any kind of reversal on this. I think potentially we're going to get that pop, but you definitely have to be careful on Tuesday with Powell. And then the other one I do have is Shop. Now, Shop is taking one heck of a beating. Essentially, almost lost about 50% of what, or 90% of, or 80% of what it's been worth coming into this year. So that's what is ultimately really interesting here. But if the really key level I'm kind of watching here is this EMA, the 436. Again, we could potentially start really running back up to some of these levels. You don't want to think that this thing's going to go all the way back to 1762. Again, a lot of these stocks have been normalized because of what's gone on with inflation and stuff like that. So with the Fed numbers, a lot of these things have been brought back down to earth. But we did hit the monthly this past week. The monthly, which was essentially sitting right here, monthly 200 was essentially sitting around 300. We got this really nice bounce. Ultimately, what we want to watch is this wedge here coming into this week. If we can break above this, I think we could potentially start really running. Again, you get that 20 EMA that's kind of floating around 438. But I think you can get a nice, potentially close to 100-point move. I know they're pricing in a 50-point move, but I think if we do have any kind of parabolic move this week, you could potentially get something around 80 or 100 points on these kinds of things. And those are the kinds of things I look at, is try to see what other events are going on. And then what the market's trying to price in typically will be way off if there's a bigger event that occurs. And then these things, you think it's a 50-point move when it turns out to be 80 or 100-point move because of the events that are currently going on. This is why it's good to be up to date on events and realize the general market sentiment can change real quick. If something's already trying to price in a 50-point move, just imagine how much more of a point move you can get after that. So that's pretty much what I'm watching this week. Again, ultimately, it's really market sentiment is what I'm watching overall, staying with the industry leaders. Obviously, there's other stocks I do play intraday if I find anything, but that's also why I do daily updates to try to provide that as well. Because even like GME could potentially be one I'm watching. I think people might try to jump in this in short squeeze. We did quite kind of get that at this double bottom here. I did short squeeze, but got wicked pretty quick. Could potentially be another one. I don't recommend these stocks if you are not a seasoned trader because these things can go straight to zero, right? The PEs on these shouldn't be where they're currently estimated at, $80. I mean, GME is not changing the world in any positive manner. So these evaluations are just way absurd for where they're at. So you have to be really careful. But one thing is nice to see is that these mem stocks really started making a hit last year. There were some of the first ones to sell off pretty heavy, but you have to also understand that if they start bouncing back and ripping, that means the market in general sentiment, the fear is almost gone if these things start ripping back up. So that's another bullish catalyst you can be watching. Are these mem stocks, banks? That's one thing I wanted to bring up too. Is banks are in this descending wedge. They've been holding this really tight. So we're going to get a parabolic move here, and it's going to be big, in my opinion. Maybe what's going on with the Russia-Ukraine stuff with the next meeting. I think now that we got that 75-point basis kind of locked and loaded, which, again, as a thesis I'm believing is that 20-point or that 25% or the 20% correction that we just had, this, again, could break. If the banks break up out of this descending wedge, which normally what happens at a descending wedge is this is supposed to break up, make up about 75% of that current move in the wedge. So you're looking at about 155. The banks, JPM rips up to 155. The general index will push very big. Big tech, everything will start ripping, value, tech. But that's, again, when that move happens, why I look at those bigger percentage move ones and I move with them, because they typically move way bigger than what is priced in. And that's where you can get the biggest option percentage differences that you'll ever see in the market. driven by events and paying attention to technicals and mixing the two and figuring out what's going to happen in the foreseeable future here. So again, I think we're really close to reversal. I don't like calling bottoms. I don't like calling tops. Just not what I do. But the way things are currently set up, I think I think we're in a good spot to start heading back up. And again, any positive sentiment, I think would really set and light that spark to get us to start moving to the upside. Again, I think any kind of upside movement, I don't think we're going all-time highs. I think just the market in general is in a bad state. So I don't see us making all-time highs. And unless the war ends, and then I think it's a very strong possibility we go to all-time highs. And that's why I keep it in the kind of my event log, because if that does happen, you'll get a parabolic move and the market won't care so much about the Fed. It's priced in a 20% correction for the year. Let's move on. Let's go back to all-time highs. It's the way the market's designed. Yeah, the market doesn't care about inflation. The market is well aware of inflation. The market is, again, priced this stuff in. So once it's priced in, then it just goes back to normal routine, back to a normal process. We keep pushing up. So, being said, if you made this far, I appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.